Night show on Boro Fan TV. Joining me, James Hutchinson, this week are Tony Guest and Joe Scott. Welcome to the show, lads.
Hi, mate.
Evening, Jim. Evening, Joe.
Hi,
Hope you're all good.
Yeah, we're not so bad, pal. Tonight we're going to look back at our last two fixtures, everybody. So that's the games with Millwall last Wednesday and the Bristol City game at the Riverside at the weekend. We're also going to discuss the sad passing of the legendary Jack Charlton and the legacy that he left, not only at the Boro, but on football in the British and Irish Isles. So as always, Boro fans, this is your show. Share your thoughts and views. Get involved in the debate. This show's nothing without you guys, okay? So, Tony, first of all, we'll go back to the Millwall game last Wednesday. There was a few dissenting voices when the team came out before the game and the introduction of some players and the formation he set up, but actually it worked out quite well, particularly at the back, didn't it?
Yeah, like you say, when I seen the team sheet, James, and I sent a few messages out. What's he playing at? Is he, he's as bad as Woodgate with his team selection, but he proved us all wrong. Went to probably one of the most difficult places to go play, whether it's full or empty. You know what I mean? And came away with a fantastic result. And Ryan Shotton, for me, had his best game in the Boro top since he came. He was absolutely immense. Not that we had that much to deal with. We came under a bit of a pressure later on, but he was just... It was what we'd been asking for, a leader. He was commanding. He was pointing. He was putting players in the right place, and it was just a joy to watch. And going back to two wing backs, Johnson's been coming in for a lot of stick lately. I know his delivery on his crosses and that haven't been the best, but neither was Ryan Giggs most of the time. But for me, he gives his all every game for me, Marvin Johnson, and he's been getting a lot of criticism. But the Millwall game, every single one of them put in the shift that we wanted. And like you say, we've even seen Adam Clayton. Is it the last time we see him in a Boro top? I don't know, with these last couple of games, but every one of them walked out that stadium 10 feet tall. It was a great result and thoroughly deserved, James.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Joe, in the first half, one of the main talking points, well, two of them seemed to surround Jed Spence and Murray Wallace of Millwall. Now, first of all, there was the penalty incident. What did you make of that penalty incident where we didn't get the penalty?
Well, for me, I thought it was like 50-50 at first, obviously, when the collision took place. But once I saw the highlights after the half-time whistle, I think that would have been a penalty, I think. And then Murray Wallace could have easily got sent off just before the end of the first half, obviously, for that little elbow he put in towards the end of the first half. But I mean, to be fair to Jed, came out of it with a broken nose and still played on, so got to give him credit for that.
Yeah. I mean, Tony, the referee had a bit of an interesting afternoon, didn't he?
One of the worst ever. It was... I don't know where they're getting from, James, and I like you say, we're hoping and we're praying that we stay in this division, because I can't see them being any better in the first division. But some of that referee's decision making was a blatant sending off. That was it was, you know what I mean. He's there. He can see there was two players on their own, and he broke the kid's nose. I don't know so much about the penalty decision, because I haven't seen that back, because I must have missed that. I must have been sorting something out in the house when that happened, so I can't say too much on but the elbow to the nose and the penalty, the one where he brought him down from behind, and he went to the linesman to get the linesman to make a decision, but it was his decision to make. He brought him down. It was a one-on-one, and like you say, as long as Fletcher put the penalty away, it wasn't going to be a problem. Them going, if they still had 11 or 10, if the penalty was going to go in, we were home and dry, really, because, like you say, we defended really well that day for a change. But the refereeing is an absolute joke in this league, and whether the EFL, I don't know these auditors and these assessors who sit in the stands doing these referees. It needs a good looking at, because if VAR came into the Championship, we'd never get a game finished, James.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few people here. We've had Aidan Maltby, Matthew Groves. Thanks again for watching, lads. We've also got Finn Walton here saying about the referees being playing up against the Boro. And like you've said there, Tony, I think the decisions have been baffling at times, not just in our favour, also against it, or like both ways. And you're watching some games and you're thinking, I can't fathom this referee out and what he's trying to do. And as you say, I think it'd be a bit of a worry if you went down to League One, what the standard of officiating might be like in that league. But going back to that Millwall game, Joe, we got the goal, I think, at a time where Millwall had just started to get into the ascendancy a little bit. They'd made some changes, had gone to a 4-3-3, and Stojanovic pulled us out with a couple of good saves, didn't he?
Yeah, because we always knew that Matt Smith was going to be a threat in the air throughout the entire game. And fair credit to Stojanovic, he kept us in the game pretty much until Britt eventually scored. And then, obviously, we got the penalty in the end, and there was another one that was mentioned, that another one of the Millwall players, Jay Cooper, in fact, could have been sent off.
Yeah. I mean, Tony, going again about the referee, but from a Millwall point of view, Gary Rout was unhappy with our opening goal. He said that Ashley Fletcher had committed a foul on Cooper. What was your take on that, Tony?
He was nowhere near him. Cooper fell over.
Yeah.
But by the time Fletcher had took possession of the ball and he was moving away, Cooper had fell over. There was no contact between either of them, and that's not from a biased point of view. And like you say, for me, it was a fair goal. Fletcher done him. Like you say, they lacked pace all over the pitch, and like you say, Ashley Fletcher 1-on-1 against him. Once he had possession of the ball, for once we used it right, and a counter attack worked for us. And I just love the way. He gets a lot of stick, Britt, but just how calm he was in front of the goal. I know he only had the keeper to do, but just the way he put it back in the other corner, back to where it come from.
Yeah.
And fantastic goal. Nothing. Tell Mr. Rowett there was absolutely nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. There's a few people here agreeing with you, Tony. Aidan again saying that he thought he'd slipped as well. I mean, as well, talking about Britt Assombalonga there, I know you mentioned about he got the first goal, got substituted, and I thought it was great when we got the second goal, the penalty from Ashley Fletcher. He was one of the first ones over there. I tell you what, that might have been the quickest he's moved all season, that, from the bench to get over Fletcher, was it?
Yeah, it's great to see, Joe, isn't it? You know what I mean? When it's nice to see that the squad's together when things like that are happening. Like the first time for a long time we had the huddle before the game. Was that the first time we had the huddle against Millwall for a while? And it was good to see. It made you feel as if they were together, and like you say, they pulled through with a great result there. Yeah.
And Joe, do you think the formation that Warnock went with? I know we'll talk in a little bit further on in the show tonight about we used it again against Bristol City, but he used it at Millwall with the wing backs. Do you think that's the best system for the players we've got this year? And would you like to see him stick with it for the rest of the season? Obviously, you might change your mind after what happened last Saturday, but do you think that system suits us best?
Yeah, and I think it worked a couple of times when we were under Tony Pulis as well. But the wing backs, for example, obviously Johnson and Spence can keep up with the pace well, and obviously we've got Anthony Dijksteel back as well, just in case if Spence were not to play a part of this season, obviously because of his nose. He'd probably just slot back in there with either him or Howson. So I'm a big fan of that system, as long as the likes of either Fletcher or the Assombalonga get the support in front. I think the system actually does work well, even under Warnock now and everywhere than under Tony Pulis.
Yeah. It works, Joe, because there's no square pegs in round holes. All them players play in them positions. The only one was George Friend, you know what I mean? But it works because everyone's position, comfortable in that position, and it was, like you say, it was a great win. Something with that none of us were expecting. Absolutely fantastic,
especially for a team like Millwall who were chasing the playoffs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Friend of ours,
they've been in good
Tony, that
form,
was on the first show back, Joe Wainman, big Leeds United fan from Leeds Fan TV. He's obviously pretty confident we're going to stay up. And he said, I'm glad you boys will stay up. It's just a shame we'll be in the league above. I don't think there's much arguing with that. I think I'll settle for that right now, wouldn't you, Tony?
Well, the only thing is now that I think they play Barnsley Thursday night. Do you know what I mean? I think the 4 points shy. So, yeah, I don't. For once, I want Leeds to beat Barnsley. You know what I mean? Because after this next round of games, we could be down there in the bottom three if we don't come away with anything from Reading. But yeah, good luck to Leeds. You know what I mean? But there's bigger teams than Leeds gone up and gone straight down, come straight back down. You know what I mean? Just look at Aston Villa.
Yeah.
You know, massive club, a million times bigger than what Leeds are, and they could be on the way back down.
Saying that they did us a favour against Stoke the other day, like.
They were very impressive against Stoke. I thought they were excellent. And I've got to be honest, Tony, I mean, I like what you're saying, but I honestly think Leeds will be top 10 next season in the Premier League. I really do, because I think they'll go for it and they'll show ambition, and I think they'll do well. Unfortunately,
it's how long that blue bucket's going to last in the Premiership. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
Just before we leave the Millwall game, after the match in his post-match interview, Neil Warnock mentioned about it's not always about managers, and he said he'd spoke to the players before the game. You have to look at yourselves. Now, at the time, I was like thinking maybe this is a watershed moment. Well, obviously, events on Saturday prove that wasn't the case. But how much truth do you think is in what he said, Tony?
A lot. It's a massive statement, and it's true. A lot. You know, you look at a centre forward, and Britt for me, Britt, even when he does have a good game, there's so much more Britt can be doing. You know what I mean? It's not good enough just backing into defenders, getting knocked off the ball, and coming up with the occasional goals. He should be a 20, 25 a season striker. And he just doesn't put the work in. And I think what Warnock's saying, and I think he's right, is there's a few in that squad who haven't been putting a shift in all season. Do you know what I mean, James? And yeah, they do have to start to take some responsibility. And I felt, like you say, that they were taking that on board against Millwall. They had taken that responsibility, but like you said, we'll talk about the Bristol game later on. And they do have to start and take pride. We've got 3 games left, like you say, responsibility, and they've got to start and take some pride in what they're doing. And there's God, how many Boro fans are sat here now biting our fingernails, and none of them must. Like you say, the responsibility is, do they want to be a Division 1 player next year? No matter how much money they're on, do they want to be playing First Division football next year? Or, in old money, the 3rd division, the 3rd tier of English football? You know?
Yeah. Andrew Antill, thanks for watching the show, mate. He's saying, listening to Neil Warnock recently, if we stay up and if he stays on, can you see Gibson backing him? Do we need to sell before he can carry out the supposed restructure? It's a big question, Joe. We were talking before we came on air tonight about this summer's going to be huge, whether we stay up or we go down, and there's going to have to be a massive restructure of the club. Do you think Neil Warnock would be the man to do it, and do you think he needs massive funds as well?
Well, it depends on what Gibson, to be honest, because looking at the way I've heard one report saying that Gibson has asked him to stay on for next season. Hopefully next season it will be the case for whatever division we're going to be in. But I think knowing a guy like Warnock, he'll probably want funds in terms of transfers, just in case there's a couple of people who've left the club and in specific positions, particularly now that Howard McCurdy's gone back to San Etienne. We're just left with the bare bones that we have at the moment to finish the league off. So I think if Warnock were to stay on, I think he'd definitely want funds next season if he does stay on.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Tony, about Warnock staying on, or do you think he might go elsewhere, Steve Gibson, for a manager?
Like you say, if who have we got to sell? What assets have we got at the moment for him to sell to raise funds? You know what I mean, James? So that's going to be a test there. I hope, like you say, there's a lot of Boro fans been calling out for him for years, you know what I mean, to become our manager. And now he's here. Gibson might as well try and keep him, you know what I mean, whether it's for 12 months or 18 months. So it'd be nice to see him stay, but whether Gibson will give him the checkbook, I don't know. I honestly don't know, James, because I don't understand all this financial fair play carry on, you know what I mean? I think it holds a lot of clubs back when there's no need to, but who'd want to come, you know what I mean? Obviously, he'd attract players from his old clubs who's played under him, but it's who's going to come here. And if he does stay and Gibson says he has to make his own money, it's who we're going to sell.
Yeah.
There's a massive restructuring that needs to be done at the Boro, especially within the squad. I know what we do need. We need a top class goalkeeper. That's where I'd start.
Yeah. I think we need surgery right throughout the side, to be honest, Tony. I mean, I think it needs stripping back. And the worry is this year as well, you're talking about it's going to be a shortened pre-season. I mean, you're looking at possibly 7 weeks at the start of next season. You're going to get your pre-season games in and everything. So for the amount of work that needs done, we've got the shortest time possible. So hopefully, in my opinion, I think if we can keep Warnock on, he's already here, he can see what's going on. Hopefully, he'll be able to identify the type of players we need for next season, because without doubt, it's going to be another battle again next year, isn't it?
Definitely. It's like you say. Fair play to Pulis. He said he was, you know what I mean, that these players aren't as good as what people think in so many ways, you know what I mean? And he managed to get us into the playoffs in 7th. And like you say, I kick myself for the criticism that I give him, because he was getting the tune out of all of them.
Yeah.
So, but like you say, it's still all ifs and buts. We don't know whether Warnock's going to be here, you know. Well, and like you say, James, if Warnock's not here, it's a short pre-season. Gibson's going to be busy, you know, getting somebody in to run his football team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, talking about managers, obviously prior to the weekend's game with Bristol City, news broke about the death of Jack Charlton at the age of 85. Jack enjoyed an incredible playing career, played over 750 games for Leeds United, winning all the domestic honours you can win. He also won some European honours. Obviously, one of the 11 men that won the World Cup for England in 1966. Bearing all that in mind, Tony, when he became manager of Middlesbrough in 1973, that must have been like a massive deal, and probably akin to when Boro got Brian Robson as manager.
Yeah, I've always gone back to that. Like you say, he was similar to Brian Robson, straight out of football, straight out of retirement into management. And when he came to Middlesbrough, I was 9, 10-year-old, and the journey that he took the Boro fans on that season was unbelievable. If memory serves me right, I haven't even looked back. I think we got beat the first game with Big Jack in charge. Some people correct me if I'm wrong, but then we just went on this mad run, and like you say, Stan Anderson brought a lot of them players in, and Stan Anderson built the team, but Big Jack finished off. It was absolutely fantastic, and bringing the likes of Bobby Murdoch in, unbelievable. And he was very cautious, you know, earlier on, a few 1-0s and this, that, and the other. Then when he took the handbrake off, we were unbelievable. We just ran over teams, James.
Yeah.
And like you say, my lasting memory was the first time I seen the man, you know, walking around all. Now, when I look back, sometimes I think, was it a little tactic of his? You know what I mean? When he went round collecting all the tracksuit tops, was it just to have that final word in someone's ear? You know what I mean, James? And I thought that was a World Cup winner going round, taking the tracksuit tops off the lads. And anyone could have done that, you know what I mean? But he walked around all 11, collected the tracksuit tops, and he was just immense. He was he's this giant of a man. Another World Cup winner at the club, like you say, we had Nobby Stiles, Harold Shepardson was there, and we just seem to be getting all the World Cup winners coming in through our doors.
Yeah.
And the team, the players, and Big Jack just sent Middlesbrough absolutely mental. And my memories. And I watched it back the other day because Boro Fan TV put the old newsreel up from Tyne against Notts County, and I remember being at that game because I like what took my memory back was when the players came out at the end for the lap of honour, and they came out in the stock and face, and I remember that as if it was yesterday, you know what I mean? And then obviously when we battered Sheffield Wednesday 8-0, and then he went to their kids' place. I think they needed to win to stay up.
Yeah.
And we beat them 4-2, I think.
Yeah, we did.
But then we didn't just go into the first division to make the numbers up, James. He made us contenders. He made us able to compete with your Liverpools. Obviously, Man U weren't in there the first season because they had been relegated.
Mm-hmm.
But we were competing with everyone. We were absolutely one of the best footballing sides in that league.
Yeah.
But like you say, you know, a true, like a Geordie, everything that you'd all want in a man. A Geordie played for Leeds for 700 games, but some found out where he belonged. He belonged at the Boro, and he done the business for us. And rest in peace, Jack. And you know, forever in your debt, mate.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of how revered and respected he is. The fact that when there's been all the celebration dinners the last few years, when the Charlton's champions have been here, they've sold out, and people have been desperate to get along to those dues. And it was just a little bit before my time. I caught the last season of Jack Charlton. That was my first year watching the Boro. But my dad, for over 20 years, would say to me, "You'll never follow a team like Charlton's champions. You'll never have a team like that." And they are absolutely revered on Teesside, aren't they, Tony?
Yeah. And they all used to use our club round the corner, and they all used to get in the Legion, you know what I mean? And I always remember I had an old £5 note, and they were in there one night, and my dad ripped this £5 note in half, and he got them all to sign it, you know what I mean? And God, I wish I knew where that was now, you know what I mean, James? Because I had every single one of Charlton's champions on the back of this half a £5 note, and like you say, what we were talking about the other week, that they used the drinking holes that we used to drink in, you know what I mean? They were part of the community. And like you said, they were all champions. And it was Jack Charlton that gelled together. Yeah. I once asked Jim Platt what the difference was, you know, between Stan Anderson and Big Jack when Big Jack come in. And obviously it was his charisma and everything about him that brought that team together.
Yeah, no, and like I say, you mentioned there, Tony, not only did he get them promoted by 15 clear points when it was 2 points for a win, he then established them as a real. The following season, a lot of people say, with a little bit of a fair win behind them, they could have actually won the double the following year. They were in the top 4 at Easter. They were in the quarter-final of the FA Cup, which they somehow managed to lose to a Birmingham team that beaten 3-0 home and away that season. So they should have gone on to the next level, and I think that's probably his one regret from his time at Middlesbrough. And a lot of Boro fans that you speak to of that generation will say that should have been the first Boro team that won a major honour.
He always said, didn't he? He was 2 signings off winning the league. So you know what I mean. So, like you say, it's Boro, isn't it?
Yeah.
What could have been? Like you say, we should have won something under Big Jack because that team was unbelievable. And then there was all the youth players coming through. We you know, it was boom time for the Boro.
Yeah, and I think it's great when you've watched the TV, social media, everything the last few days. Just comments like Stephen Walker's here, just saying legend gets branded about too easily these days, but he genuinely was a legend. And you hear so many lovely comments about Jack, and he just seems like a genuine bloke. I only ever met him at dinners and things like that, not to talk to anyone, but just a quick photograph, things like that. But he seemed like he had time for everybody, Tony, and he was just a genuine man.
Yeah, well, coming across, like you say, listening to all these ex-pros and his family, it's just like he had time for everyone. Cameron's been delivering to his house the last 12 months, and he said he asked him if he wants a cup of tea while he stood there filling his tank. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
just everybody's You know what I mean? I know it's daft to say, but he's one of us. He was a football fan, and he kept everything simple, James.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to talk to everyone.
Yeah. And Joe, for Tony to say that, and now all the Boro fans and football fans have said there, this is a man that won the World Cup. He's only one of 11 players in this country that have represented England that have won a World Cup. Yet he kept his humility. He was humble. It speaks volumes about him, doesn't it?
Certainly is. It's unfortunate I never got to meet him myself, but from what I've heard, it's probably one of the most genuine, nice blokes you think you probably ever come across. All I can remember of Jack Charlton that during my younger days was obviously watching a few like VHSs of obviously the World Cup in 1966, and obviously he went on to become the manager of the Republic of Ireland, probably one of the most successful managers that Republic of Ireland I've ever had, basically. So it was great to see a lot of good memories coming from Jack Charlton from his time at the Boro. Obviously, he got us promoted to the First Division after 20 years, and it's definitely going to be one of them those in the football family who will be sadly missed by all, I must say.
Yeah. Like Joe alluded to there, Tony, he took over the Republic of Ireland job. They'd never qualified for a major tournament in their entire history. Yet he took them to 2 World Cups. He took them to a European Championship. And they upset quite a few of the big boys along the way, didn't they?
Yeah, like Mick McCarthy said this morning, the Republic of Ireland, they'd always had great players, Liam Brady, Stapleton and all them, but they were never a team, and they got Big Jack in as manager. And like McCarthy said, all of a sudden, he got us all in, told us how we wanted to play, and he said he made it fun, and it was an absolute. He said he's gelled us into a team and not just individuals. You know what I mean? And I remember the 1990 World Cup. And I think we played the Republic our first group game.
Yeah.
And I think it's the lowest. You know what the Italians are like for keeping the ball on the floor. I think the ball was only in play for about 36 minutes of the 90. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was either up in the air or up in the stand.
Yeah.
But that's how Big Jack had him playing, and like you say, they weren't nice to watch, but he got the results and he played to the strengths.
Yeah. Great little comment here from Damon. Thanks for watching again, Damon. Said Jack Charlton went round all the local towns, Stockton, Norton, Middlesbrough, everywhere on Teesside. The guy had loads of times for the fans. My dad met him at the races in York, and it was sad that the guy didn't get a knighthood. And a lot of people have said the last few days that those players didn't quite get the recognition they deserve when you see what some people have had and other footballers since then. Yet those 11, the honours came in dribs and drabs for them. So many got knighthoods. Most of them just got an OBE. I'm saying just, but they got an OBE. And it does seem rather strange, isn't it, when it's a team game that they didn't all get the same honour.
Every single one of them, should have been knighted a fortnight after lifting the World Cup, James.
Mm-hmm.
If we won the World Cup now, you only have to look at when the cricket won the World Cup, when the rugby won the World Cup. Athletes come home from the Olympics winning gold medals and everyone's screaming for them to be knighted. Bradley Wiggins and people like that getting knighted. And like you say, it's criminal how them lads weren't recognised, didn't get no resignation for what they'd done in that World Cup, because it was an unbelievable achievement. I know we played all our games at Wembley, but, fantastic achievement. And yeah, like you say, people must just look down the nose at them at the time. They're only footballers. But they all should have had the highest honours off everyone.
Yeah. And I know there's been a lot of debate the last few days. A lot of people have said Jack Charlton, the greatest ever Boro manager that we've had. I'll ask you both in turn, where do you stand on that debate? Is he the greatest manager the Boro's ever had? What do you think, Joe?
Probably definitely up there with one of the best we've ever had. It's definitely up there, obviously, with the likes of McLeod and everyone else.
Yeah.
Obviously,
and how about you, Tony?
He, like you say, he got us out the he got us out the old second division after what 20 odd years.
20, yeah.
You know, established us in the first division. You know, the club made a lot of money out of some of his players, selling them on. I've always said the greatest Boro manager for what he achieved and what he had is Bruce Rioch. But like you say, Jack Charlton, for everything that went around him, you know what I mean, he's most probably the most well-known Boro manager, but he's up there with Bruce for what he achieved with our club. But for me, it'll always be Bruce for where he brought us up from, James, and the 2 promotions back-to-back he achieved with absolutely nothing. Jumpers for goalposts.
Yeah.
Over the wreck, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the 2 are very much... Yeah, you can't split them for me, to be honest, because Rioch, he took us at a difficult time and got the successive promotions, whereas Charlton did the 1 promotion, but it's then, like you said earlier, Tony, what he did when he got us to the top flight. I mean, to finish 7th in your first season, and to be honest, they could have even finished higher. Hell of an achievement, that. And I think his standing will always be very, very high with Boro fans. Just another point on... Yeah, just another point here from Rob Henry on Jack. Same as a lot of people. Wish I could have seen Big Jack's team. He's an absolute hero. He gave Bernie Slavin a chance at international football when he'd been snubbed by Scotland. And it's true, even at international level, he still had an eye for talent because he'd find out where players, if they had any Irish heritage in them, to get them into the Irish national team, didn't he, Tone?
Oh, he must have had people... He must have had the best scouting crew ever. He must have went through books, birth certificates, everything. It just shows you that the man is a miracle worker, turning a Scotchman into an Irishman overnight, you know what I mean? And getting Paddy Slavin again for Ireland, you know what I mean?
Well, for me, lads, football, it's all about making memories and giving the people pleasure. And without doubt, Jack Charlton did that. Absolute giant of the game. So, obviously, from us all here at Boro Fan TV, rest in peace, Jack.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Jack.
Going on to managers again, going back to the current day, obviously, we've got the situation about who will be in charge for the Boro next season. Football Skills 99, thanks for watching, mate. He's going about Neil Warnock. Now, obviously, much has made, Joe, the fact that Neil Warnock is 71 years old. So, would he be interested in being at the club for, say, another year, 18 months, 2 years? Do you think he has just come here to get these 8 games and then move on? Or do you think he could be tempted to stay a little bit longer?
Well, he hasn't ruled out saying that he hasn't ruled out wanting to stay for another year. But most Boro fans will probably recommend him, probably give him another 12 months on his contract, see how he does. And if he goes after that, then we'll figure out our next move after that.
Yeah. I mean, personally speaking, Tony, I just think I'm in favour of him remaining, but it is a big ask for him to, say, commute from Cornwall, whether it be for a full week or whether it's part of a week or whatever, and it's a big responsibility. Do you see him taking the role on at the end of this season, Tony?
Like you say, James, it's a big ask. He's 71. The only thing is that he's always wanted to manage the club. He's always wanted to have a shot at the Boro. He's always wanted to work for Gibbo. So, well, maybe that'll be the carrot dangled in front of him. What he's always wanted. He'll stay for 12 months. But this club needs a manager who's going to be around for a lot longer than 12 months, and whether they bring someone in alongside him for him, like it didn't work like Woodgate did with Pulis. I don't know. I don't know what direction our club's going to go in. If they give Warnock the job, Gibson most probably thinking about promotion with Warnock in charge. You know what I mean? But for me, we're a million miles away from that. So. Yeah. The club just needs a brand new strategy, where we're going to go. We are an established championship club. Well, if we stay up, we are. We've been down here in the championship a lot of seasons now. So it's where what direction Gibson wants us to go in, James.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that the fans are obviously split on this as well. Simon Gale saying, I can't see him staying as manager. It's too big a job, as he'd have to totally rebuild the squad, which I think we all agree that does have to happen. And then David Richardson, massive Boro fan. Nice to see you, David. He's saying, I think he will stay on, and I think Gibbo's relationship with him is vital. One of the things that's been mooted the last few days, Joe, and I don't know if there's any mileage in it, is the fact that maybe Neil Warnock might take on a director of football role with Kevin Blackwell and Ronnie Jepson being at the club day to day. Would you be in favour of maybe something like that happening next season?
Maybe, because I think Blackwell has obviously took charge of teams in the past when Warnock got the boot, and obviously Ronnie Jepson will probably stay on as the number 2. But if that were to be the case, I won't mind being in favour of it, because I think Kevin Blackwell took teams out of dodgy spots before, so I would give him a chance if Warnock was to move to director of football type of role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the one thing with that, Tony, is obviously all 3 of them are at the club at the moment. They know what's going on day to day, and they would work very closely together. It might just buy Steve Gibson a little bit more time before he decides on his next move after Neil Warnock.
Yeah, definitely. But like I say, there's still some, managers who've achieved promotion over the years, sat out there out of work. You know what I mean? And it's a big ask. Like I say, I hope he does stay. I hope he gets a shot and he does stay. But I'm looking further down the line, which you shouldn't. I'm just looking. First of all, I'm looking at tomorrow night to get 3 points, but you're trying to look at the bigger picture. Will it be good? I don't know. I don't even know how old Kevin Blackwell is, and what type of success he had at Leeds and wherever he stood in for Warnock in the past. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean
it's some massive decisions.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting what you say there, Tony. And Stephen, again, thanks for getting in. And he's saying Boro would look a good proposition to players if Warnock was in charge, and he recognises again that we need new players. But when you mentioned there about there's managers that are out there that have won promotions, and I think you maybe alluding to the likes of Chris Hughton and maybe looking at Jokanovic and people like them. But do you think the finances are the one thing that's holding back the likes of them maybe being attracted to the club?
Yeah, but he's got to I don't understand how this financial fair play works. You know what I mean? And it shouldn't. If you've got someone willing to spend money to make your club better, you should be allowed to do it, James. And this financial fair play is a load of crap, because it's still not a level playing field now when you've got clubs selling the ground to make money and getting away with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I don't know, James. I honestly don't know. He's got to let go of the purse strings sooner or later, because it is all down to Gibson. It's all his money, and as we know, money buys success in this game, James. So hopefully, whoever gets the job, hopefully he gives them a few bob to improve the squad.
Yeah,
I've obviously heard. Speaking of Chris Hughton, I think there's been a lot of talk recently that he said himself that he wants the current job at Bristol City at the minute. So I'm not sure if we were going for Hughton, if worst case scenario, if Warnock goes. Yeah.
Well, obviously, I think there'll be a little bit of money freed up this summer, because obviously players are leaving that are out of contract, and some of them have been on good money for championship players, and obviously the club will have to cut the cloth. So there will be a little bit of wriggle room there available to bring in new players, but I don't think there'll be millions and millions spent, will the lads?
No, them days are well over, James.
Yeah.
Well over.
Yeah. Well, talking about Bristol City, we've got somebody with us now. Sorry to interrupt you where you're having your tea there, Stanley. You all right, mate?
Yeah, lovely. Just enjoying my lovely curry. I'm enjoying it almost as much as I enjoyed our win the other day.
Well, you haven't wasted any time getting that in. We're joined here at Boro Fan TV by Stanley Hughes, who's from One Stream in Bristol, the Bristol City podcast. Nice to have you with us here, Stanley. Obviously, first of all, for the Boro, we had the highs of the Millwall game and the lows of the Bristol City match. It was a great result for you boys, though. You seem to have responded really positively to Lee Johnson being removed as your manager, or is it just a coincidence that the results have improved after he's gone?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's always hard to work out whether it's a dead cat bounce when a manager gets sacked, isn't it? I think maybe there's less pressure on the team, and the fact that that Lee Johnson has been sacked, that's coincided with the fact that the playoffs are now seemingly out of reach. So I think maybe the fact that we've almost got nothing to play for apart from pride, and the fact the manager has gone has sort of allowed the players to be a bit more free and take a few more chances. And I think we saw that in sort of the goals for Naki Wells and Jamie Patterson.
Yeah, I mean,
Stanley, nice to speak. Nice to speak to you again, Stanley. Stanley, I think the last time we spoke was down at your place. I think we beat you. Bristol had got off to a terrible start, and there was even talk then of him getting the sack. Then, you know what I mean? And like you say, for it to come when it did. Has it been going on for a while? Have them rumblings been there for 2 seasons, or has it just come totally out the blue?
No, I think there's always been a big portion of Bristol City fans who have never warmed to Lee Johnson. I think part of that is down to the fact that he was a player here, for those that don't know, and he played under his father, Gary Johnson. And there was always sort of a part of the fan base that were questioning, is he in the team because he's the son of the manager? How good is he? And even when he joined the club, Lee Johnson, as a manager, he described himself as a Marmite-type player. I think, we are the only club in the EFL to have improved league position for 5 seasons in a row. And even though we're doing that while selling our best players like Adam Webster, Aidan Flint, Codger, Bobby Reid, there was still part of the fan base that were questioning Johnson. I think that, over the last 18 months, we haven't been playing the best football, and it's been sort of, is this good enough? Should we be aiming higher with the players we've brought in, like Thomas Callas, who used to play for you guys? And I think really once the Cardiff loss happened and the top 6 was out of reach, even though it's still mathematically possible, I think really it was inevitable that Lee Johnson was going to be sacked, Jesse.
Yeah. I mean, Tony, how frustrating from a Boro point of view is it that we're almost back to square one again, that we've now seen 3 pretty abject home performances since we returned, and we haven't won a game at home since Boxing Day. Why do you think that's the case, Tony?
I don't know. I couldn't believe it when I heard that today on the radio that we haven't won since Boxing Day against Huddersfield. And I know obviously we've had 3 months off. It's just made you feel even worse to think we haven't won since December.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is, James, because obviously we can't win when there's people in the stadium, and we can't win when there's no one there. So I can't put me, because I can't say it's fear now, can I? You know what I mean? Because there's no one there to give them the big boost. So I can't put my finger on it, James. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like I say, we'll talk about it. I felt there was a bit of improvement in our own performance at Festaff against Bristol City, but I don't know whether Naki Wells meant it. If I'd have put it in, I'd have meant it. It looked like he did. I don't know whether Patterson meant the second one to go in the way it did. So a bit unfortunate. You can look at it with either 2 worldies or 2 of the luckiest crosses we're going to see in a game. But once that first goal went in, I've said for about 3 or 4 seasons now, once we go a goal down, you might as well shut the curtains because we're not going to win. You know what I mean? It's very difficult. Boro have found it very difficult to come back into games after going a goal down.
Yeah. I don't argue or disagree with you on that, Tony. I mean, from your point of view, Stanley, as well there, Bristol City, it must be really frustrating because in a way, like Millwall, you've been on a really poor run of form at times, and yet the playoffs are still tantalisingly close. It must be really frustrating, that, is it?
Yeah, I think frustrating is a good word. I mean, he's known, I don't know if he's known by this term outside of Bristol City, but he's known as Streaky Johnson, our manager. I mean, we've gone on some amazing runs. I'm sure many of you remember us beating Man United and basically pushing Man City over 2 legs in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. But at the same time, the season before, we broke the all-time Bristol City record for consecutive losses. And then the next season we win 14 in our own all competitions, and it's just this. No one can really put their finger on it. When we're playing well under Lee Johnson, we're amazing and we're unbeatable. And I'm sure you guys will remember the 1-0 away win at the Riverside last season, where we just ground out wins, and we did it at Sheffield United the week before. But then come to this season, and you guys talk about not winning since Boxing Day. I mean, before these two wins, I think we might have won one game in 2020. So frustrating is a good word, and I still think it's out of reach, to be honest. I don't think we're going to get the playoffs. I just want to see some goals and some shots and some exciting football, and we saw that, in the win at the Riverside on the weekend.
Yeah. And Joe, we spoke earlier in the show tonight about the formation that we used at Millwall. We used the wing backs. We went with it again against Bristol City, but I think it was pretty evident early in the game that it wasn't working. What do you think Neil Warnock's going to do for the remainder of the season? Do you think he will stick with it, or do you think it's horses for courses and you have to change things for certain opposition?
It depends who the opposition is. Obviously, he worked in Millwall, and then I think when we go up against Bristol City, obviously this weekend, you can tell. I think the main difference in that game was the two three-man centre-back pairings. Obviously, Fry, Friend, and Charlton didn't look like they had any confidence at all dealing with the likes of Wells and Jeju. But you look at their centre-back pairing, obviously Callas, Baker, and Benkovic, they pretty much stood their ground throughout the game, and that obviously apart from when British no longer scored, that we got anything really past them. So when we go up against Reading tomorrow, I think I'd like to see a little tweak a bit. Obviously, when Patrick Roberts came on for a bit in the last game, I'd like to see him probably get him a start in, but it's up to Warnock at the end of the day, really.
Yeah. And obviously,
when you watched like you've just said there, Joe, about the backline combinations, if you watch the first half again against Bristol City, George Friend is not a centre half, and you can forgive Shotton for sometimes, because when you're watching Bristol City come forward with the ball, George Friend is always breaking the line. He's always going back towards our penalty spot when the line's on the edge of the box. He's allowing players to come further into our half and come deeper into our half by not keeping in line. And it was quite frustrating watching him in the first half against Bristol. At one point, he was that deep. A lad took a shot, and Saville actually blocked the shot, but George didn't know he'd blocked the shot because George had turned his back again on somebody else having a shot. So I think that's where we let ourselves down badly there, because not just his shot and having to keep an eye on Dale. I know he's played a lot of games, but he's still quite young. He's got an old Gadji next to him who's, can't keep a line. The line that obviously was Shotton's the middle man, the line that Shotton's setting, and somebody keeps breaking it. And it was quite painful to watch, really. But I did feel like you say the first half we did try to get back in it, but we just kept knocking on the same door. We didn't try anything different.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed with Jamie Patterson. Stanley, I thought he had a good game, and I was also impressed by the quality and the pace throughout your side. I thought you looked really good for a side, like you say, that have not won many games this year, to actually play with a lot of freedom and confidence as they appear to do on Saturday. They were one of the better sides I've seen, actually, from a footballing point of view this year in the Championship.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Bristol City fans will say that the win on the weekend was one of the best games of the season, if not in the past few seasons, really. There's always an accusation at Lee Johnson that maybe he overcoaches and he's got too complicated a game plan, and he tries to put everything into the players' minds, and sometimes it can get a bit muddled. And maybe it's a bit of a theory, but maybe what we saw on Saturday was an assistant coming in, a new pair of eyes, the same players but simpler instructions. Let's play fast football, let's enjoy ourselves. And Dean Holden said in the pre-match press conference that he wants the players to go out there and play like it's their first ever football match. Have fun and express yourself. And I think we saw that. And Jamie Patterson, like you said, was great. Remember, he was loaned out at the start of the season. Yeah. He was loaned out to Derby because he wasn't good enough, he wasn't consistent enough. And since he's come back, I think he's got a goal and assist involvement every 154 minutes or something like that. And Ben Rama for Brentford is 151. So that's the sort of level that Jamie Patterson has been playing at since he's returned.
Good player. I mean, Joe, I suppose the only positive we can take from Saturday is we got our first home goal since the restart, and that the results over the weekend largely went for us again. I mean, we were 2 points clear of the bottom three when the restart began, and that was with 9 games left. We're still 2 points clear of the bottom three, and now we're down to only 3 games to go. So I know it's clutching at straws a little bit, but we haven't lost any ground sort of thing, and we're still in control of our own destiny, aren't we?
Definitely, considering the games we've got coming up left now, obviously we go to Reading on Tuesday, and then we finish off with Cardiff City at home and Sheffield Wednesday away. Out of those games, I think Cardiff are going to be posed as the most threatening to us. Not getting anything, to be honest. I think the other two, I can see us getting like a win and a draw, and obviously depending on other results elsewhere, I think that'll actually be enough for us to keep us there in the Championship the next season.
I won't be right, mate. I mean, and going back again to Bristol, Stanley, you've got 3 games left. You can still technically make the playoffs, and obviously we'll be desperate for you to beat Stoke on Wednesday night. But how do you see the season finishing up for the Robins?
I don't think we're going to make it personally. I think we could win 3 games because it's the sort of thing that Bristol City can do go on a run. But I don't think 70 points will be enough. I think someone might nick it with 71, and our goal difference is quite bad. But all we can do is just let's affect it. Let's try. If we can't get in there ourselves, let's ruin someone else's party and get enjoyment out of that. Let's send Stoke down. Let's ruin Swansea and Preston's playoff hopes. And just cause some havoc for once, I guess.
I mean, that's a fair point. And obviously tomorrow, like Joe said there, Tony, we've got Reading away. And whilst our better performances have been on the road recently, it's going to be another difficult game. Because again, like Bristol City, for me, Reading are one of the better footballing sides in the division. John Swift's a good player in midfield for them. It's going to be another difficult game tomorrow night, isn't it?
Yeah, and personally, I think we should just set up like we set up against Millwall. Like Damon just said there, friend has to start, like you say, because the lad's gone back to France. He's gone back to Saint Etienne, so we haven't got much cover amongst the back 4, back 5, whatever you want to call it. So George has to start there tomorrow, but I'd leave the team unchanged because this season that's been our most successful formation. The only change you could make really was, I don't know how fit Jed Spence is, and obviously how fit Coulson is, because that's when we were enjoying the football again, when them 2 young lads were bombing forward.
Yeah.
Like you said, Dykesdale, he's come back after injury. How fit is he, and is he up for the fight this time of the season, this time of the year? So for me, I'd start with that 11, and it's going to be difficult, especially if they start shifting the ball around like Bristol City did. We're going to struggle to keep tabs on them, but I just hope our bubble away from home hasn't burst, because it's our only saving grace at the moment, these away games. Yeah. And we've done well at Reading the last couple of years, so I hope that continues. But like you said, I don't see any changes. The goalkeeper still worries me. He's a good shot stopper, but his positioning is a bit off, you know what I mean? And obviously, we've got goalkeeping coaches there. They must be able to see it. We're only fans, and we can see it. I'd like to see Britt just do a bit more instead of just staying up against the centre half, come short, just run around in little circles and make himself more available. You know what I mean, James? Because like you say, after watching the likes of Naki Wells and Patterson, the movement the other day, it just causes havoc amongst the back 4, back 5. You know what I mean, James? And
yeah.
I just want us to fucking win tomorrow.
Yeah, we're all desperate to get over the line. We're desperate to get these 3 points. We are. Well, before we go, we'll do our predictions. So, Tony, Joe, predictions on the Boro match tomorrow. And obviously, for yourself, Stanley, if you predict your scoreline, we'll come to you last for your scoreline against Stoke City on Wednesday night. All right, mate. So first, Joe, you can go. You can have first dibs on tomorrow night. Reading away.
We have to win, James. We definitely have to win this game. So I'm going to say 2-0 Boro.
Okay, Tony, over to you, mate.
Yeah, 2-0 Boro.
You want 2-0?
And Bristol City to beat Stoke. And Bristol City to beat Stoke 4-0.
I've got more confidence in that, to be honest, Tony. I think we might get a point at Reading tomorrow. I think it might be a draw there, and I do think Bristol City will overcome Stoke. Stoke are a very funny team as well. I mean, they played probably the one team you do want to play at the minute is probably Birmingham City, and they looked awful again yesterday. But again, Stoke are very up and down.
Yeah.
And I think Bristol will have too much for them on in midweek. How about yourself, Stanley?
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's nice to hear people talking about Bristol City in a confident light for once. I don't know. The fact we played so well against you guys, I'd be surprised if we don't beat Stoke. And hopefully it'll cheer you guys up. So I'll go 3-1 again. Why don't we go 3-1 again? But you never know. You never know. We might ruin it for all of you.
That's just the championship all over.
Yeah,
Indeed.
definitely.
Yeah. Well, lads, all it remains for me to do is bring a close to tonight's show. Thanks very much to Guesty, Joe, and to Stanley from One Stream in Bristol for joining us. Thanks very much, lads. And thanks to you all out there for contributing and watching tonight's show. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Boro Fan TV and keep up to date with all the goings on during the penultimate week of the season. Until next time, from us all here at Boro Fan TV, Red and White, you and me, Monday at 6, Boro Fan TV. Good night. Up the Boro.
Up the Boro.
Cheers, lads. Fantastic.